Before we begin, I'm sure you already have a few questions that you would like me to answer. For my TikTok followers who have joined my channel but are overall unaware of the situation, basically, yes, I'm remaking the Dynichen and Dynicheops video, but unfortunately, TikTok took down the audio of that video, and I wasn't able to save it beforehand on my phone, so I had to remake this video. For the fossil Pokemon nerds who have clicked on this video, yes, I know there is technically already a velociraptor Pokemon with Arcan and Archeops, but I'll explain my reasoning as to why I'm making Dynichen and Dynicheops soon. And for those wondering who are Dynichen and Dynicheops, we'll get there when we'll get there, okay? Be patient. Jesus. Now to really begin, let's talk about the beef I have with Jurassic Park discourse. Every once in a while, some dinosaur nerd points out how Velociraptors in the movie is inaccurate to how Velociraptor is in real life, and that they wish that they were more paleo-accurate. I should know. I was this nerd. Still am that nerd, actually. But now I have the knowledge for why Velociraptor looks the way it does in the movie and in the books. Firstly, let me remind everyone that Jurassic Park isn't meant to depict dinosaurs that are totally accurate. Sure, there are a very few amount of accuracies, but the inaccuracies come from a combination of what we knew at the time and the frog DNA messing with the dinosaur's genetic structure. That's because the frog DNA that makes them different has given them some additional side effects. The inaccuracies of what we knew at the time was meant to be explained in the frog DNA. In fact, in the book and in Jurassic World, there's scenes with Dr. Henry Wu explaining how nothing in Jurassic Park is natural. The dinosaurs aren't real dinosaurs, they're frog dinosaur hybrid monsters. That's why I hate why this topic gets this topic getting brought up so much, because people always forget that these movies aren't meant to depict like genuine dinosaurs. They're like the most genuine we've ever gotten was in Jurassic World Dominion, and even then it's not even genuine because some of the dinosaurs had traits that they didn't really have in real life. It's so infuriating. Honestly, this is like, it stresses me out. I know I talked about this before in the Dinosaurs video, but I think I just briefly talked over it, except for in this video, where I'm going into more detail about it. I think. I have to rewatch the Dinosaurs video. Alright, let me go back to script. Sorry for crashing out. This topic gets me violent. But Velociraptor is a special case of where the frog DNA isn't exactly what contributed to its unique appearance and lore. Jurassic Park's Velociraptor is based on Deinonychus and Dynicheops. In fact, it is just a Deinonychus, a rather large specimen of the dinosaur. Discovered by Dr. Barnum Brown and later reviewed and named by Dr. John Ostrom decades later, Deinonychus and Dynicheops is a type of dromaeosaur known for its sharp claws where it gets its namesake from. The reason for why Deinonychus is called Velociraptor in Jurassic Park is because Dr. Michael Crichton, the man who wrote the book that inspired the movie, was inspired by Dr. Gregory S. Paul's book, Predatory Dinosaurs of the World. In that book, the paleontologist suggested the idea that Deinonychus is actually another species of Velociraptor. Now, this idea is incorrect, of course. Deinonychus is its own species and not a Velociraptor. There's a lot of evidence to back that up. But the knowledge of that is what caused Crichton to use the name of Velociraptor instead of Deinonychus. Plus, in his opinion, Velociraptor sounds more dramatic than Deinonychus. I disagree, but you do you, Michael. We also know this because he told Dr. Ostrom about it. And if I were Ostrom and some freakishly tall author came to me and told me that the name I chose for the dinosaur I discovered and named weren't cool or dramatic, even though you're choosing the name that means Speedy Thief over Terrible Claw, I would not be happy. I would not be happy at all. Of course, the size of Deinonychus is still not as big as when you're comparing it to how big they were in the movie. They are about 4 feet tall in real life, while the movie raptors were 6 feet tall, which led to the misconception that they were based on Utah Raptor. But Utah Raptor wasn't discovered until much later. Rather, the velociraptors were adjusted in size so that people could fit inside the suits they made for the movie. But they are primarily based on Deinonychus and only Velociraptor by name. And it's because of this entire overly complicated backstory on Jurassic Park's raptors is why the first 4 letters of Dynichen and Dynicheops' names are Dyni. The prefix is a shortening of Deinoni, which Dino means terrible, and Ni is taken from Nychus, which means claw, as reference to the big toe claw on Deinonychus, which together means terrible claw, as I've mentioned. But what about the Ken and Cheops parts of Dynichen and Dynicheops' names? Well, that is obviously a reference to Archen and Archeops. These two were already considered the velociraptor of fossil Pokemon. There's the Dex entries talking about them hunting in flocks and how they're super intelligent. Also, they have the same type of claw that raptors tend to have. Well, Archen doesn't, but Archeops does, but you can only see it in its 3D model. But Archen and Archeops are primarily based on Archaeopteryx, not Velociraptor, which isn't a Dromaeosaur despite having a somewhat similar build. Archaeopteryx predates Dromaeosaurs, as they first appeared during the Jurassic period, and their closest relatives are birds, not Dromaeosaurs. So with all this evidence to suggest that they aren't related, then why the names? Well, it's because Dynichen and Dynicheops are meant to be regional fakes of Archen and Archeops. Regional fakes are Pokemon that resemble one Pokemon, but are actually an entirely different Pokemon. The first time we've ever seen this is with Diglett and Wiglet, Pokemon that look very similar to each other, but one is a mole and the other is a sea worm. Side to side, you can see the similarities between these two Pokemon evolution lines. But, while Archen and Archeops are feathered rock flying types, Dynichen and Dynicheops are featherless rock dark types. But why rock dark type, you ask? Well, they're rock type because they're fossil Pokemon who have gained the rock type due to being restored from fossils, as I've said in other videos. Dark type comes from the nature of how the Velociraptors behaved in both the book and the movie, especially in the book, as the Velociraptors were clever and sadistic and ruthless. But Dynichen and Dynicheops' dark type also comes from their second biggest inspiration, slasher horror. Each carnivore I'll be making in this series, I will also be taking inspiration from some subgenre of horror, or something that's also really scary. In this case, with these Pokemon, it's the slasher horror genre. But why slasher? Well, believe it or not, Jurassic Park's Velociraptors, both book and movie versions, have some things in common with slasher villains. And all of those details will be highlighted as we go over the design, abilities, and dex entries of Dynichen and Dynicheops. Starting with Dynichen. This cute little guy's design, along with its evolution, is modeled after what the Velociraptors looked like in Jurassic Park, for the most part. Added features, of course, being brown stripes and an almost white sickle claw. But why is this claw white, you ask? Well, that relates to Dynechen's one and only ability, sharpness. Like how Archen and Archeops only have the ability Defeatist, sharpness is the only ability Dynichen and Dynicheops will ever have. It was an ability introduced in Generation 9 that allows moves like Cut, Knife Slash, and the like to have their damage increased by 50%. And that ability, along with their white toe claws, are meant to depict the main weapon of most slasher villains, a sharp and penetrative weapon. You see, slasher villains usually carry the exact type of weapon I just described. Whether it's a knife, an axe, or something else, the weapon is always used to penetrate another victim. Why do I keep on using the word penetrate? There obviously should be like a better word that doesn't have any Implications. Well, slasher horror movies are usually out to tell some sort of message. In the case of most slasher horror films like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and many others, anything sexual is bad.
What if I want to have sex before I get married?
Well, I guess you just have to be prepared to die.
Even Scream, a movie about the tropes of horror movies, pokes fun at the trope of sex equals death. So, what does this have to do with sharp and pointy weapons? Well, usually penetrative weapons are held by male characters. And what's something most males have that they use to penetrate with? What is the male reproductive organ? And that is correct. Your prize is... Hearing me info dump more. This is all why Dynichen has the ability Sharpness, and why its toe claws are made to look like knives. Dude? Oh, yeah? You forgot to explain how this further connects to raptors in context to Jurassic Park. Oh my god, you're right. Thank you. Okay. In the novel and movie, it's a crucial plot point that the dinosaurs are changing their sex and breeding within the park. This is an even bigger problem in Jurassic Park's novel, as the raptors are the ones with the biggest jump in numbers once they start breeding. Originally, the park's motion sensors, which is how they track the dinosaurs, detected 8 raptors. But there were more than just 8. There were 37. And before you begin to type in the comment section how this disconnects the raptors from slasher villains because they're doing the nasty and slasher villains don't like that, let me remind you that Alien fits within the slasher genre given its themes and its focus on a dangerous killer with a penetrative weapon. And the xenomorph was brought about through forced reproduction, so subversions within a genre can be allowed. And it's not like the velociraptors reproducing was a particularly good thing. It was actually fairly bad. Now let's get back to Dynichen's dex entry, which reads, 6 months after hatching, Dynichen is considered terribly dangerous and aggressive. They use their large razor-sharp toe claws to gouge into and then latch onto their prey. Once they pin them down, they begin to furiously rip and tear into their prey's flesh. The first part of Dynichen's dex entry not only refers to Robert Muldoon's line from Jurassic Park,
More about raptors than anyway. What kind of metabolism do they have? What's their growth rate?
They're lethal at 8 months, and I do mean lethal.
but also the age of when Michael Myers started killing. He didn't start killing at 6 months, obviously. He started killing at 6 years old of age. He wasn't an infant when he murdered his sister. That would be stupid. One thing about slasher killers that makes them very notable villains is that they're incredibly brutal and violent. Hence why Dynichen was described as such. But the whole latching onto prey after leaping onto them comes from deinonychus itself. You see, it's believed that rather than using to cut and slash at their prey, Deinonychus would use its toe claws to latch onto prey to make continuous bite and slashing attacks. And with Dynicheops being more built to use both its claws on its hands and feet, that feature remains, as does its typing and ability. But what it does gain in its evolution are these distinctive red tiger stripes on its back and upper thigh. These stripes are not meant to represent the Isla Sorna raptors, but rather another trait that Jurassic Park raptors share with slasher villains: their inability to be killed or die quickly. Whether it's through a curse or immortality in general, slasher villains, certain slasher villains, are incredibly difficult to keep 6 feet under. And so are the novel version of the raptors. They lost blood slowly. They were almost invulnerable to pain, and because of that, regular guns wouldn't do the job of ending their lives. Muldoon had to use a rocket launcher just to kill one of them, and that worked for one raptor. The fact that he survived that book at all, as opposed to the movie, is actually kind of surprising. What isn't surprising is that Deinonychiops also has this near invulnerability, as according to its dex entry, Deinonychiops is a ruthless fighting machine that hunts in large groups. Devastating attacks like Hyper Beam or Explosion won't even make this Pokemon flinch due to its complex nervous system. To make it worse, they're terribly clever, using their forest environment to their advantage. If you see one Deinonychiops ahead of you, a second is likely about to pounce on you from behind. As you can tell, this dex entry not only references what I just talked about, but also references a few key details about Deinonychus, Jurassic Park raptors, and another slasher horror icon. It's theorized that Deinonychus likely lived in jungle forests, using their claws to climb trees to get the jump on their prey. Something that has never been utilized in any of the Jurassic Park movies, despite the JP raptors being based on Deinonychus. I'm blaming the frog DNA on that part. But as for the last part of its dex entry, it not only references the clever girl scene from Jurassic Park, but also references the plot twist to Scream. In the movie, spoilers by the way, it gets revealed that there are two ghost faces rather than just one that most people would expect. Now, the last thing we'll talk about is Deinonychiops' signature move that learns upon evolution. Being a raptor Pokemon based on slasher villains, Deinonychiops' main weapon of choice had to involve its claws. So, Slasher Claw, very creative name, I know, is a physical damaging move that does 90 points of damage with an accuracy of 70%. User charges at the target and cuts them with its giant toe claw. The move will have a 15% higher chance of landing a critical hit on the target. Combined with stab, sharpness, the critical hit, the strength of the attack, and however strong your Deinonychiops is, and whatever level it is, because that's what is involved in the critical hit, this attack is lethal. It's so lethal that originally it had an 80% chance of hitting, but as of writing the script, I changed that to 70 because it needed to be balanced when Deinonychiops is a dark type. And no, I'm not saying that Deinonychiops can change its type, because some of the raptors in the book can change their color, and in Pokemon, changing your color can mean you can change your typing. It's not like that. What I'm saying is, in the future, variants of Deinonychiops' evolution line will be able to learn this move. But the type of this move will change depending on the type of the Deinonychiops. Sort of like how Tauros was given the new move Rage Bull in Generation 9 for its multiple new regional forms. This is all done because Velociraptor has a different appearance depending on the Jurassic Park movie you are watching. In The Lost World, they had a more tiger-like appearance and smaller bodies. In Jurassic Park 3, they had more avian features, as well as sexual dimorphism. In Jurassic World, we got introduced to the Raptor Squad, and each member of that squad had different looks. And most recently, in Jurassic World Rebirth, a new Velociraptor makes an appearance. Certainly appears. That will be the most difficult to do, as we don't have much info about them. Hopefully, that deleted scene the director mentioned will be released to the public by that time. Probably not, but, I got an idea of what I want to do with it. So, to represent all of them, I'll be drawing different variant forms for Dynichen and Dynicheops based on those raptors, which is a lot. And that's also a lot. Thank goodness I already made Indoreops and Scorpatrum. But those hybrids are for future videos. Specifically ones about Fallen Kingdom and Camp Cretaceous with updated information about them. And with that said, what do you guys think about Dynichen and Dynicheops? Leave a like, share, or comment if you'd like. And if you haven't already, follow me. And with that said, goodbye!